Hello and welcome to Radical Mercy with Christian Murphy. Today we are jumping into a mercy exercise. Really happy to be here with you. We are with you here via video and audio, so if you're watching on YouTube, thank you. Be sure to give us a like and make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. And if you're listening on Spotify, same deal right there. Subscribe, make sure you're following, and if you like what you're hearing so far, give us a rating. We'd really appreciate it. That stuff really helps move things along and helps us continue to find our community, which we seem to already be finding. It's been really lovely here. The first two episodes, a bunch of you reached out and sent some really nice messages, and so I greatly appreciate that, and we're excited to keep that going. So today's episode is really unique, and I'm really excited to do this. I've had this idea for a bit as part of this whole experience of diversifying our material. I struggle to say like the word content or anything like that, but like diversifying the way in which we share this message of radical mercy. So last week we had an interview with Nina, which was awesome and really well received. And so this week what we're going to do is I'm going to show, if you're watching visually, you'll see the video play in the YouTube channel, in the YouTube video. If you're listening, you'll hear the audio from the video. Both work fine, whichever way you want to interact with it. But I'm going to play a clip from a project that I did for a client, the Diocese of Rockville Center, a project that I'm really proud of and did really well and continued to do well and continues to find more viewers and whatnot. And it's on human dignity. And so it was a really fun thing to work on. And so what we'll do is we're going to watch it and listen to it together. And it's a buddy of mine, Father Chris Sullivan, who reflects on what is human dignity. And his audience for this video was, originally the idea was that it was for young students who are preparing for confirmation. But when we were working on it and I was kind of doing the creative direction on some things with him and really the diocesan team, I said, let's find moments where we can not only talk to that audience, but also talk to other audiences too. So the parents and others who are watching it can get something out of it. And it's worked like that. We think we found it to be successful like that. So I'm going to play that. We'll enjoy it together. Let those words wash over you. And then I'll jump back on and I'll reflect on that a little bit. And then also just reflect a little bit on the merciful experience of getting to work on this project and create it and what it taught me. So let's jump in.
So I want to talk to you about what is human dignity. Now, you may have heard this term, human dignity, a million times, but what does it mean? So dignity is a fancy word meaning something's worth or their value based off its excellence. So, for example, you may have heard of like a dignitary. Well, this would be a person, because of their position, that has elevated worth, like a king or a queen. But what is our human dignity? What is our worth, and how do we find it? So the first place we find it is where we're from. How are we created? So we're created by God. Revelation tells us that we're created in His image and likeness, male and female. And you might remember in Genesis, God makes the moon, the stars, the skies, the earth. And what does He say? He says it's good. But then He makes us and says what? We're very good. The scriptures tell us that God has made us unique, unrepeatable, and with purpose. John Paul II would remind us that He's made us by name from the very moment of creation. And that means that we can never be used as an object or a thing, but only as a person, an end in and of itself. Moreover, He's made us special. So in His image and likeness. And by that, we don't mean that we look like Jesus. We don't have a beard like He did. But it's on the inside, we're like Him. So we have reason and intellect, which means we can discern something. We can figure out problems. You could do math or science. You can choose between good or evil. You know basic things. We also have free will, which means after we've discerned something, we can choose to do it or not to do it. We also have a spiritual and immortal soul, or an interior life. That means that you can pray It means you have that interior dialogue that's always going on. Like, for example, right now you might be watching this video. You use that intellect to say, I like it or I don't like it. I'm bored, I'm not bored. Then you use your free will to say, I will pay attention or I won't pay attention. And maybe you might be praying right now, please let it end. Or hey, let it never end. I don't know what your prayer might be. But you use all these things because you're in God's image and likeness. But that interior life, that soul, says something more. Not just for our creation, but for our destination. Because all of us, in our heart, yearn for something.
Okay, cool. All right, so that's Father Chris Sullivan talking about human dignity, and it's about, so this is fun. We're going to talk a little technical and spiritual here at the same time. He talks for about 2 minutes and 50 seconds in this clip, and then we jump to a guest in the middle for a special interview on their encounter with mercy with a young adult, and then he jumps back in at the end for another like 2 or 3 minutes to kind of hit the point home. I love doing this for many reasons. First, I thought the idea was really good, and the concept that the diocese was interested in engaging with was really cool. So that was exciting. But then also technically, on a technical stand, I liked the ideas that we came up with on how to present it and how to do something that our group had never done before. It's nothing, you watch it, it's nothing incredibly groundbreaking. People with cameras have done these kinds of things, but for us, we never, explored this kind of material in this way, and so it was a lot of fun like that. But I wrote down some notes here on some of the things that I thought were really great about what Father Chris says here, and could offer us ways to reflect moving forward and in this week and the weeks to come. But this idea of working off of this idea of excellence, human dignity, the word dignity coming from the lineage of language, right? Of saying dignitary and excellence. And what a gift it is to be able to release that from our vocabulary and saying that it's not simply just about being excellent by our own decisions. Yes, we are called to be good and we are called to do good and great things, but we can oftentimes make that a roadblock for us to even try to be good. We can say, I'm never going to be excellent, so I shouldn't even do it. And so what Father Chris is reminding us here of saying, by our creation alone, you are excellent. And you can't forget that. And so I really love that he mentioned that part in the beginning there of sort of just like breaking down the language. Something that always bothers me or gets me a little cranky is when people discuss human dignity as if it's something that they can totally lose. Like, I lost my dignity. I did something I shouldn't have done. And well, yeah, you could damage your values, your character. You could damage those kinds of things. We have to remind ourselves and remember that we are all so dignified in that we are created, and that is a wonderful gift, and you can't lose that. It can get maybe smeared a bit, it can get tarnished and get a little bit rough edges around it, but it can't be destroyed or taken away from us. And I really love the way that Father Chris delivers that here. I think that's an important message that he was really dialed in on. And when we met in our pre-film meeting to just kind of discuss what he was going to do, he had a rough script of where he was going to go. It was really clear to him that he wanted to make that his thesis, so to speak, which I was all in on, and I got really excited about. Because I agree. I think that's an important point to make for all people, especially young people. I really like, too, this notion of where are we from, where we are from, and looking back at our creation. And so we can look at that in the scripture sense of going all the way back into the text of saying what Genesis says about God created the world, right? It is good, and then created us, and it was very good, right, too? But even in our own personal lives, looking at where we are from, looking into those aspects of things, and learning about the goodness within that creation story too is really a wonderful way to think about this, right? We are created with purpose and by name. When I was when I was a high school theology teacher for a few years. And here and now, every now and then I jump back in the classroom to teach some stuff. And I had one lesson I did that is a pretty familiar lesson to people if you taught scripture of any kind, which is like a study of your name and having students, break down what their name means and define it, and whether that means they literally Google it and figure that out, or what stories did you grow up with attached to your name. Like figuring out like, hey, do you know what your name means to you? And if you don't, that's okay, but let's figure it out and let's look at where does your name come from? Because everybody has some sort of story or meaning to that, and that then in and of itself helps define your dignity too, in the way that Father Chris is mentioning here. So I thought that was really great, and it's an important reminder. Two other points I want to make about this project that was really cool, and a moment where I think about God's intervention and how there's no accidents, right? I remember we showed up at this church, Holy Family in Hicksville, to shoot this. If you look in the video, if you watch it on YouTube, you'll see that the church has these big windows on the side, and so much light just flushes right in. It's a really, really beautiful church, and it's a different design from other churches you'll ever be in. These big windows, and they're not stained glass windows, so the light is really coming in. So if it's sunny, it is sunny in that church. And so when you're a filmmaker, all you think about is light, and you're just constant. Every time I step into a place where I'm filming, especially the type of filming I do, where I don't always have total control over the area, my first thought is, okay, what's the light going to do for me here? How is it going to look? And I remember being really excited about this because the light was giving us a lot of opportunity and a lot of options. And also the church is really long. And so again, if you're watching on the YouTube video, you see the depth is really, really exciting because you can shoot it in a way where the focus is fun. And so I got excited about that, but I also got really curious, and I was like, I've been in this church before, but I couldn't put my finger on it, how or why. And I was kind of getting a little embarrassed because I was like, I feel like I was here for something. And as we were filming it, the shoot went so well, and I was really like just feeling it, and I was so pumped. And we shot another piece in this church as well that day. We kind of hit a couple. We got a couple things done that day, and I remember feeling so good about myself as an artist with a camera in my hand, but then also as just a friend of these wonderful people. My spirit was really high, and then I remembered why I was there, or what I was there for years ago. It was at that point. It was five years ago. I was there for the funeral of my mentor and one of my dearest friends, Pat Tracy. I'm embarrassed to say I forgot where his funeral was, but it was a location that was not very familiar to where I had known him. I had spent most of my time with him in Patchogue and Blue Point, and Bayport, those areas, because that's where I knew his part of his life. Pat was my campus minister in college, and then mentored me when I graduated into the religious studies ministry world, and then eventually paved the way for me to become the campus minister in his position when he retired, which I held for 5.5 years. And it was one of the greatest experiences ever in my life. Pat is also the reason that Nina and I, Nina was the guest on the last episode, he's one of the reasons why our relationship was able to come together, the way that he inspired both of us. So he means a whole lot to us, and he meant a whole lot to us, continues to mean a whole lot to us. I think about him every day, love him dearly, miss him very much. He died suddenly, very unexpectedly, and this is where his funeral was. And when it hit me, I was so full of emotion and joy and confusion and awe and wonder. And I knew in that moment, I said, okay, this is God's mercy right here, reminding me, like, you're having a good time and you're loving this job and this experience right now. One, because the content is really good and the people that you're working with are awesome and super kind, and you know you're going to have something really good to sculpt in the edit, right? So there's that part. But the other part is that this space held a meaning to me that I didn't know right away when I walked in, but subconsciously I did. And Pat's spirit was infused all over this project. And I think we all can say that we experience that somewhere in our life, right? You could have that feeling of knowing that somebody's spirit is infused in something. This is why we have like places and memories where we continue to go back and we say, this was the thing that person loved to do, or this was the restaurant that they loved, and we're going to keep going back there, right? Because we're searching for their spirit to come and almost lay their hands down on us in that experience, right? And it's a wonderful thing. And I know sometimes it can get a little bit lofty of saying, oh, this is the special chair that, and sometimes we can get a little bit too superstitious about it. But I think it's a wonderful opportunity to think and reflect about where are we looking for that spirit to be invited, to remind us of those that we love, those that have passed maybe, and then also to remind us of God's creation too. Where in our day-to-day or locations and whatnot can we be inviting God's mercy in that way? I left this shoot and that church. I was actually just there recently for another job, which was really exciting. But I left thinking I need to pay attention more to my surroundings and really take in every room that I come into, not just because the lighting's good for the shoot, but because of what else God might be offering me and what other stories might be in this location. And I need to be more mindful of that, because there's a lot of mercy to be found out there if we just take the time to look at the room we're in. We're very often jumping place to place to place. So for me, the exercise here for me was to look around the room I'm in every now and then and really take it in. Look at the wall, figure like in this video, there's really nice brick throughout some of the parts of the building. Like, look at that brick, look at that detail. And so I share with you the exercise for today is some of the spaces that you may encounter, that you encounter in your day-to-day. Take a moment and look at that space a little bit differently and see if there's some things in there that you didn't notice before, or if there's some stories there. Who was in that room before you? You'd be really surprised to see how we are all connected and how God's revealing that to us through moments like this where, you were already there and you don't even remember it. So, yeah. Well, wonderful. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining us for this edition here of Radical Mercy for Mercy Exercise. Thank you to Father Chris Sullivan for offering his words, and for the diocese for this wonderful project that we got to do. It was a lot of fun, and I'm really proud of it. And I'm proud we got a lot of views on it. It's been really successful. A lot of families have been enjoying it and getting a lot out of it. And so that's really exciting. So I'm excited to see that, and I hope to see that number keep going up as more families encounter it as they are preparing for their sacraments. So very wonderful. All right. Well, God bless. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you soon.